You know what? You know what's crazy is being around people that the presence just follows them. You ever been around those people where the presence of God just follows them, and when you come in contact with them, there's an impact made. There's like it's almost like a rub off from them, and you can tell the people that actually hang out with God versus the people that just talk about God. You know those people that just talk about God, and you're like, I know you know a lot, but you get confused about a lot too, and your life actually doesn't reflect what you say. You know those people? Don't they just annoy the daylights out of you? They do me. Anyways, but there's a difference between the people that are actually filled, pressed down, shaken together, and running over with His presence. There's a difference. I love being around those kind of people because it's contagious. God's word is contagious, and His presence is contagious. And when you spend time with Him, automatically He adheres Himself to you. And that's the difference. That's the difference between someone that walks in and can spit you a lot of doctrine and stuff like that versus the person that steps in and just loves on you. And you can feel that presence. You can feel there's something different. It's like, whoa, I can tell you've spent some time with the Father. You haven't just been reading the book on the Father. You spent time with the Father. I don't want us ever to be limited by just the Word, but I want us to grow in our relationship with Him. May we not be people just of the book. It'd be like my father handing me the Hollis Manuscript, the guide to live in the home. And I can read the guide, but until I hang out with the Hollises, I will not know that they're loud and obnoxious, because that's probably not going to be in the guide. We're loud. You have to be loud to be a part of the family. If you're not loud, you're probably not going to get along with us. It's just something that goes along with it. But I'm sure in there we probably wouldn't put be loud and every restaurant be obnoxious, but it just goes along with who we are. But when you spend time with our family, you'll figure that out for yourself. Does that make sense? Time with the Father is more important than time with your spouse. Time with the Father is more important than time with your children. Time with the Father is more important than your job. Time with the Father is more important than that idea you had to bring money into your house. Time with the Father has to be the most important thing of our day. Because when it is, the relationship with your spouse becomes healthy, and the relationship with your children becomes right, and the relationship with your boss at your job becomes and that job that God placed on your heart, that idea that God placed on your heart becomes a reality because of the time you spent with the Father. When you actually step into a relationship with God and you spend time. See, time these days, it just flies by. I mean, how many of you remember, just yesterday, we were in 2018. Seriously. We're crossing into 2020. What? Where did it go? When you think back over the year of 2019, and if I were to ask you the question, what were some of your best moments? Would they be revolving around Him, or would they be revolving around you? It's an easy question. When we sit down and have a face-to-face conversation and I ask, how's life? Am I going to get a list of some downs in your life, or am I going to get a list of all that God's doing? Because when you spend time with God, it doesn't matter what life looks like. Because in the Word of God, it says God's going to take what the enemy meant for evil and He's going to turn it for good. So therefore, in the midst of the down, yuckiest, most miserable part of my life, I know that God's shifting it for something good. So therefore, I don't dwell on it because I know I'm coming out of it. Automatically, my eyes start to view over my problem to my solution. And now I start to see things in a different way. So therefore, when you ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm great. Well, that's just annoying. You shouldn't always be great. But it's reality. Because if I tell myself, man, I don't like this. I know that when I'm feeling like that, it's time to run to my secret place. I know when I'm feeling like that, it's time to draw near to the Father. I know that the moment that I feel like, you ever have that moment you just, everybody's human, everybody has those moments, but it's what you do with those moments that matter. It's how you steward those moments that matter. You have every right to wake up in the morning and have the worst day of your life. You have every right. The moment you were born, you had every right. Well, it depends on who your mama was, but you have every right to act however you want to act. God's handed you that right. And it's what you do with that right that matters. You have the choice when your feet hit the floor in the morning to say, you know what? I'm going to choose to go against my flesh, to go against my mind and where it wants to wander. I'm going to choose to go against all my coworkers and what they say. I've been so caught up in that, and I don't want that anymore. It's stewarding what you have well. And I believe, and this morning was totally a picture of where we're headed. But this house is and will always be more worried about his presence than anything else. And I believe that we're entering into a new year in a new way with new eyes and a new sensitivity to his presence. A sensitivity that I believe we've never had before. Because I'll be the first one to say, we have no idea what we're doing. No idea. But I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to a church that has it all figured out. It's not what I'm hungry for. I don't want your 12-step plan to get everything you think you can get from it. I just want him. I just want more. I want more of his presence. I want more of his glory to rest on this place. I want when I leave here for him not to stay here. I don't want to rely on a Sunday morning to get me through Monday through Saturday. I'm serious. This is where we're headed as a church, as a whole, as a body, as a family, as brothers and sisters in Christ. This is where we're headed. It's not going to be about the Sunday morning. It's not going to be consumed about, I just got to get to Sunday because I'm so down. Your week is going to prepare you for what God's going to use you for here. Your week, it's your secret place. It's your secret place. It's going to prepare you for what God's going to use you for here. No more are you going to rely on what Pastor Greg has to say to you to wake your spirit up, but your spirit's going to be awake so God can use you to wake someone else's spirit up. Because we're going to steward what we have well so God can use us in a way that we've never been used before. In Isaiah 64, this is the Message translation, verse 1, it says, "Oh, that you would rip open the heavens and descend. Make the mountains shudder at your presence as when a forest catches fire. Lord, may you rip open the heavens today, Lord. Don't hold anything back. And I pray that when I go home, that my house would be a house that the heavens rip open on a daily basis. May my house be so covered that when people walk by my house, walking their dog, when the dog goes to go poop in my yard, it can't. I'm serious. I pray that the presence is so thick. Oh my gosh. That when I pull up to a red light and people pull up beside my car, there's a presence that hops from car to car. I'm telling you, you think I'm crazy. I'm telling you, God is doing something he's never done today. Today. Y'all think that the greatest stories were in the Bible. No. The greatest stories are happening today. In these days, God is opening up the floodgates in a way that we've never seen before. Miracles, signs, wonders, salvations, they are happening here and now. And we get to worship him. This is not a you have to. This is a you get to. This is a moment where we get to come into his presence. That's why when worship is being led, and they're like, come on, let's sing. Come on, lift your hands. They're encouraging you to worship, to break out of your comfort zone because they know what's on the other side of your comfort zone. Because we've all been there. We've all been there. We traveled for 12 years on the road. I was forced for 12 years to go into a different church every Sunday morning and worship with people I'd never seen before. We went on the road when I was 5 years old. And I still remember going into church after church after church after church after church after church. I mean, we traveled 50 weeks out of the year. Did 48 states, 13 countries. I mean, we traveled all over. And I remember every week we'd get in the trailer to travel to our next church. And mom and dad would we'd be up in the truck driving and they'd say, let's just talk about this for a second because this is something we don't want if we ever plant a church. Or we'd sit down and be like, we have to imitate that if we plant a church. And God didn't even set it in our hearts to plant a church. It was just talk because we knew when you sat in a healthy home, you knew it was healthy. And I'd sit there with people I'd never met before, but there was a presence of God in the house that I knew was authentic. And then you'd sit in a house where you knew people just didn't care. And it was all about the show. It was all about getting that hour and a half in or that hour and 15 in and getting out the door. And we'd sit down and say, we never want that. May we never be a church like that. May we never be a home like that. That when you come in, you feel like the host is wanting you out. That's not a church I want to be a part of. I want to be a good steward of his presence to say, God, we've come into this house this morning only to seek you. Nothing else matters. I don't care about the agenda. Lord, you can blow it up. Doesn't matter to me. So what? We don't have announcements. It's not the end of the world. And that's all great for this house. But this has to replicate over into your house. Because we can be intentional here and say, God, do it, move. But you coming in from your week, and the only thing that was important for you was getting breakfast in your children before they got to school and grabbing dinner before they went to bed, rather than his presence being the most important thing in your day. That's what has to shift so that here things shift. Because when you come in from a week that hasn't been all about him, it's going to be very hard for you to make it all about him. Because all that's going to be important to you is what's troubled you from your week, rather than just praising him for his blessings. The reason we come together on a Sunday morning is to praise his name. We come together to praise his name. We come together to worship, unified, and lift his name, glorify his name, because he's worthy. But we're so consumed with us because of the time that we spent away from the Father this last week, we're hurting. It's been such a selfish week. We've had so many things going on that's just been all about us. Then now we're here and it's like, Lord, oh my word, I need you. Oh, I've been waiting for this moment to be with you. He's like, son, daughter, I've been with you this whole time. Why are you waiting for these four walls? I want to live in your four walls. And when we change what we're consumed with, see, here's the thing. When you become aware of something, you become responsible for it. And this is the dangerous part, because this is where a lot of us will skip off. When you become aware of what's needed and what's known, you become responsible for it. So now that you know you have to steward his presence well, now that you know you have to actually steward a relationship with God well, now you become responsible for it. It now becomes your responsibility. And what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that? What does that look like? How are you going to shift things? How are you going to move things? Because it's so, so important. This morning in Dream Team meeting, it was crazy. We literally sat just like this in silence. Almost the whole Dream Team meeting. Just let God move. It was incredible. There was such a peace in this room. I think we had like 50 or 60 Dream Teamers show up. Those are the people that serve on a Sunday morning. They come together at 8:30. We have a 8:30 to 9 o'clock meeting. Just sit in his presence, pray over what's going on in the service, come together, unify, and get ready for all that God wants to do. And this morning, man, it was different. And I believe that this is what he's doing. God's not the God of same. He loves to stir things up. He loves to shake things up. And this morning, in my spirit, I felt a shift. I felt a shift. It was almost as if my kids called a meeting. And I went, I showed up to the meeting and I sat down in front of my children, and my children are 8, 5, and 2. And it was almost as if they called a meeting and they sat me down and they said, hey, Dad, we just want you to know that I know we have our struggles with listening to you, but from here on out, we're just going to listen. Sweet. I'm down with that. That would be awesome. I feel like that's the meeting we had with God today. I feel like we had a meeting this morning with God where it was like, God, I want you to know, I know you've been calling on me a lot, and I'm sorry, I guess I've just learned how to brush your voice off when you're calling on me, but I'm choosing from here on out just to listen. And I don't know what that looks like for you. I don't know what that is for you. For me, sorry, I'm crying a lot today. I've been watching a lot of Hallmark movies. killing me. It's brought out a new emotional side of me. Driving me nuts. What would happen? Oh my word, what would happen if we were so tuned into his voice? What would life look like if all we were worried about was his voice? I think everything else would just fall into place. In the Gospel of John, concerning the baptism of Jesus, Bill Johnson talks about this. And as I was studying for today, I felt so strongly to share this because this is where I believe we're headed. And this impacted me years ago. We actually sat under Bill Johnson over in Washington, D.C. as he spoke, and he talked about this. And I was reminded of it as I was studying for today. So I want you to hear this. So in the Gospel of John concerning the baptism of Jesus, when he came out of the water, the Spirit of God came on him in the form of a dove and remained. Now, that's a significant statement because doves are very nervous creatures. If I have a dove on my shoulder in the natural, my position has to be very cautious of what's being housed on my body. Because I know doves get spooked. So I have to walk properly in mind, thinking always of the dove. Being cautious. Making sure that I'm walking upright, not startling the dove, because I don't want the dove to leave. I want the dove to stay. Every step being with the dove in mind. The goal of the believer should be to want to host the presence of God and alter every environment we enter. As we enter the room, things shift. As we enter the room, things change. The problem is a lot of us live careless. He'll never leave you, never forsake you, but are you actually carrying his presence? When you become careless about his presence just lifts. He's with you. He'll never leave you, never forsake you. But you can tell the difference. You can tell the difference. I have friends in my life that I want to be around because of the presence that they carry. Because I know they've spent time with the Father. And then there's friends in my life that are saved but don't carry the same presence. Because they've become careless about the dove. They've become careless about his presence. They've become careless about the things that rest on them. And I'm going to land the plane here because this is where we're headed as a house. This is where we're headed in 2020. Walking as if his presence is on us. Your actions become different. The way you live becomes different because you're always conscious of the dove. Everything you do, you think back, is this going to affect the dove? Is this going to affect his presence being on me? Is doing this going to affect what my results of housing him would? If I say that, is that going to shift some things? If I do this, is that going to mess things up? If I act on this, is that going to... When we become a people, we become a church that is so conscious about the dove that no matter what we do, we're constantly thinking of him in mind. And then, when you grab the hand of your brother and sister, they can actually imitate who you are in him because there's no all over the place. What's God doing in you? In Hebrews 5:11, it says, I have a lot more to say about this, but it is hard to get it across to you since you've picked up this bad habit of not listening. By this time, you ought to be teachers yourselves, yet here I find you need someone to sit down with you and go over the basics on God again. Starting from square one, baby's milk, when you should have been on solid food long ago. Milk is for the beginners, inexperienced in God's ways. Solid food is for the mature, who have some practice in telling right from wrong. That's heavy. That's heavy. I have a lot more to say about this, but it is hard to get it across to you since you've picked up this bad habit of not listening. What a warning! I have so much to tell you, but I can't. I have so much I want to include you in on, but I can't. I have so much more in store for you. It's waiting for you, but I can't. I have been trying, but the bad habits you've picked up on your daily life because your secret place has not become the most important place. So therefore, when I call on you and want you to tune your ear to me, you're so tuned out. You're missing out on everything that I have for you because everything else has become more important than what I have. But what would happen if we became a church that didn't worry about the milk anymore? What if the milk was only for those that were first time coming into his presence? What if we had so much meat in the house that the meat, or literally it's like going, I've never been here, but Fogo de Chao where they just bring out the meat over and over again. Like what if it was like that? What if it was endless steak? What if your house became a house of endless meat? You ever show up to a restaurant and you're like, I just want a salad? You're weird. But isn't it funny after you eat that salad, in a little bit you're hungry again? Because the salad doesn't fill you up like meat would. You go downstairs, you drink a glass of milk, and a little bit you're hungry again. Why? Because it's just milk. It doesn't do much. It doesn't nourish your body like you need. You need meat. You've got to have some red bloody meat. Why was David able to take on Goliath? Because of his secret place. Because before he faced Goliath, back in the private, without anybody onlooking, he had to take out a bear and a lion in his secret place. God was preparing him to not fear the things that normal people feared. In the secret place, in the private areas. God, do it in me. Do whatever you want in me. I'm training you, David. Go kill that bear. Kill that lion. I'm training you. 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 There's a giant. I'm not worried about the giant. I've already taken a bear and a lion. I'm not worried about that. The giant's dead. He's already gone. He's done. In my mind, God sent me to take him out. What if you were those kind of people that didn't fear the giants, but you came in attack mode? No matter what, you were the person that your friends called and said, hey, I need prayer. I know that you believe the giant's already dead. So can you pray over my situation? What if you were that friend and you weren't the friend that was always calling for prayer? Like, what if things shifted? What if we were in a house that took on a prayer request, but we were a house that only received praise reports? Like, what if that was what if that was the case? It's a shift. It's a shift. It's a shift in mindset. Everybody say that. Say, shift in my mind. It's a shift in my mind. It's a shift in my mind. I've got to shift this, because if this never shifts, I'll never be able to affect this. God has got to be able to get into your spirit. He's got to be able to get into your heart and move things and shift things so that you then can pursue him. But you got to give him access. You got to give him access. It's that secret place. It's those private moments before the Father, saying, God, prepare me. Get me ready. Lord, I don't want to be like I've always been. I want more. Shift my surroundings. Shift my friends. But why do always bad things happen to good people? Check this out. Psalm 34:19. The righteous person faces many troubles. It's not over yet. The righteous person faces many troubles, but the Lord comes to the rescue each time. Every time. Say it. Every time. Why am I always facing hard things? Run to the Father. Why am I always laying hands on people and I'm not seeing anything happen? Run to the Father. Ask him, don't ask me. Run to the Father. Get on your face before the Father. Lord, why am I praying for people and nothing's happening? Why am I doing things and nothing is shifting? Run to the Father. It's your secret place that's going to blow your mind. When you get on your face before the Father and you start to say, Lord, I want you to wreck me. I want you to take me to a place that I've never been before. Lord, I want you to show me things I've never seen before. Lord, I want to do things I've never done before. In those moments, it's those moments that'll blow your mind when the Father speaks to you. And you say, oh my Lord, I've never heard him before. It's because you've never taken the time to actually hear him. He wants to speak to you. He's begging to speak to you. He wants you in those moments, in those private moments where he can unleash over your life and everything that he has for you.